I'm gonna do all the trash teams first just to get them out the way, because I mean, you know, we're not here to talk about them. Starting first with this garbage can right here. Now, as many of y'all know, I have a podcast, Davoo Say So podcast, out on our platforms. You know what I'm saying? Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, everywhere, pretty much. I had the Broncos winning the division. As soon as they got Russell Wilson, my dumb self, said that the Denver Broncos was going to win the division. That might have been one of the worst takes I've ever made in my entire life. Russell Wilson, I don't know if the Sierra curse is coming in. I don't know what is going on, but he has looked horrendous this year. Straight garbage. I mean, just horrible. Their offense is atrocious. They can't run the ball. Really, their defense has been keeping them in these games that they're in, which I expected. Their defense was highly ranked last season. You know, you got Patrick Surtain, you had Chubb, got a couple other guys on there, but the offense has yet to put up points. With a talented offense, when you put it into consideration, you have Patrick Surtain, you got a Melvin Gordon, you got a Jerry Jeudy. With what we thought was a good offensive line, you should have been able to, you know, maintain. They're one of the most sacked teams in the league, and they're the worst offense, or at least one of the worst offenses. Russell is being clowned. You know, the Broncos country let's ride. Now he's on airplanes working now. Like, I don't know what he's doing. He goes to opposing team stadium. They're playing Future. Future's over here talking about I've smashed on C, doing all this. It's just horrible what has happened to this man. I hope we're not witnessing the fall off, but he's looked bad. Honestly, he's looked really, really bad. Again, Hop Simba, appreciate the follow, bro. But yeah, we're gonna. Oh my gosh, Denver is horrible. They're really horrible. But I'm gonna show them some grace right now. Right now, I'll have them as a C. I'm as a C. Now, the Oakland Raiders. Oh, I said okay. Las Vegas Raiders. Again, another disappointment team. I thought that they'd be able to contend in this, at least give a fight in the conference, but they're another disappointing team. And honestly, I don't even know what the problem is. To be honest, the head coach that they had last year, because remember, they had John Gruden last year. He gets fired for the leaked messages and leaked emails with the racist stuff, so he gets fired. Then Henry Ruggs, the situation with Henry Ruggs happens. He kills somebody while he was drinking and driving. He's out of the league. So now you got all that drama. They bring in the special teams coach, make him the intern, and then all of a sudden they just take off. They start winning games. They won their last 4 games. They went to the playoffs and actually made a game out of the game versus the Bengals at Cincinnati. So the Raiders coming in this season, adding a Devontae Adams, who was the best receiver in the NFL. You bring him in. You bring him in with the Derek Carr. They already have chemistry. They played in college. You look at the rest of their squad they have. You got Walker. You got Renfield. You got a Josh Jacobs. The offense looked poised to be up there with the top best offense in the league. And for some reason, again, they're another team. They just been struggling, haven't been able to figure it out. I mean, it's been real bad. I mean, especially that game in Kansas City where they was up. They went up big. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes came back because it's Patrick McGoat, my homeboy. They were up, lost the lead. Then that last play, of course, everybody knows. Renfield ran into Devontae Adams on the last route, and they lose the game. The whole year has just been a spiral downfall. They brought in Josh McDaniels, which we thought was a good move at first, but now that we're looking back on it, it made no sense to let go or bring in a new coach when the guy that you promoted from the special teams, I forgot his name by the way, but the guy that you promoted from the special teams was really doing something for your team. And if anything, Derek Carr showed me last year, like, okay, Derek Carr got some dog in him. Because after all the stuff that happened last season, I was ready to just count them out. I'm like, okay, yeah, Raiders, they're not going to be none this year. But somehow, some way, they found a way to climb into the playoffs. They had that great game against the Chargers, which was really win or go home. And then they made a game. They almost won in Cincinnati. So I'm thinking this year with them getting Davante Adams, I'm like, oh, they could be legit. But obviously none of that has happened. The Raiders has just been a disappointing season. I don't understand how the Raiders get Davante Adams and yet Derek Carr looks worse. That just does. I don't understand that. But again, we're gonna get into some stuff about that later. But yeah, Raiders. I'm gonna have them as a D. Let's get to who should we do? Let's do the Bucks. So the Bucks right now. Okay, right now, the Bucks are a B. I have the Bucks right now as a B right now. Everybody knows the stuff that Tom Brady's going through. Off season, he obviously had problems with his family. Then he had the situation with his wife. Obviously, they're now divorced. And as a result, the team has struggled. They've battled injuries throughout the year. Tom Brady hasn't been playing that well. He's been sacked a lot of times. He's also been visibly frustrated throughout this entire season. And, you know, I mean, the last two games, they won the last two games, but, you know, they've had some really bad losses. And it's shocking for me to say this, but I never thought I'd have to say this about a Tom Brady-led team. But this team struggles to score points. Now, I know you may hear that and be like, Davoo, what are you talking about? They have Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback of all time, as far as achievements. How can they not score the football? Well, number one, Matthew Stafford and Tom Brady are going through the same situation. They don't have time in the pocket. The pocket is collapsing so quickly. They've been sacked. And one thing about Brady, no matter how old or young Brady was, the one way to stop him, or at least give you a chance against him, is if you put pressure in his face. And these teams, they just continue to get to him. And obviously, you know, he's battled injuries with a bunch of guys, playing with a bunch of new guys. But even with all the injuries, he's still been in these games, and they've still been winnable. But, I mean, they've just struggled a lot. I mean, if we can just go to some of their losses. Yeah, I mean, if we just looking at this, they opened up against the Cowboys. They didn't even score 20 points on them. You opened up against the Saints. You beat the Saints. You lose to Green Bay, and you only scored 12 points. How do you lose to Green Bay? Green Bay has nobody besides Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones and Dylan. How do you lose to Green Bay? You get obliterated by the Chiefs and by Patrick Mahomes Goat, aka my homeboy. They beat you at the crib. Should have lost to the Falcons if it wasn't for a roughing the passer card that was egregious. Again, barely over 20 points. Barely 31 points, but most of that was in garbage time. You played the Steelers. You didn't even score 20, and you lost to who? Kenny Pickett? To Trubisky? Are we serious? Trubisky and Kenny Pickett? They beat you. Then Nah, this the one that got me. I ain't gonna lie. This is the one that got me. You couldn't score a touchdown on Carolina. Who is playing for Carolina? They dropped 21 on your head top. There's no way Tom Brady cannot score on the Carolina Panthers. Now, granted, I think this was PJ Walker's first game, so he balled out this game. But 21 in their defense was supposed to be one of the top notch in the league. There's no way you allow Carolina to score 21. Then we get to the Ravens. Again, barely over 20. 22 points a game. Lamar Jackson, he dominates against you. They let him get hot. Then we get to the Rams. You beat the Rams barely at the last second. Still don't score over 20 points. Then, of course, last week versus Seattle, you win in London. But, again, it's Seattle. And you score only 21 points. So, I just named you the teams they beat. In the NFC, you got teams like Dallas Cowboys, Minnesota, Eagles, 49ers. All those teams are capable of scoring 30 plus. Even the Packers if the Packers are hot like they were against Dallas, they can easily score 30 points. Easily. We talking Aaron Rodgers here. They can easily score 30 points. If the Buccaneers defense, if they're not gonna get stops, the offense has to keep them in games. Barely getting 20 points a game is not going to cut it. You will get bounced if they get to the playoffs, which I think they will. But I mean, the way the NFC South is, it's still open for teams like the Falcons and Carolina to get the number 1 seed. But we're just going to assume that they're going to get to the playoffs because it's Tom Brady. They're looking like a first round exit. It's looking like a one and done. They're going to be one and done like a Kentucky basketball player. Green Bay, I put Green Bay about right here. Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys, I got them at an A. I got the Dallas Cowboys as an A, not an S, but I have them at an A. I believe they're 6-3 right now. Listen, at the beginning of the season, after Dak Prescott went out and they lost to Tampa Bay, I thought the season was over. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I thought the season was over for the Dallas Cowboys after Dak Prescott got hurt. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I thought the season was done for sure. And then, Lord behold, Cooper freaking Rush. Cooper Rush came on the scene and started playing like I don't know who. Now, the competition he played, the games that Dak was out, wasn't the best. I give you that. But they did beat a Cincinnati team at home. He played well. And they beat the New York Giants on the road. So that pretty much put them right back in business. Now, as we all know, Cowboys fans, you give them an inch, they'll take 200 miles. They got Cooper Kupp, and they thought they had the greatest thing since Jesus Christ came upon it. Like they was over here talking about Cooper Rush, we trust, he is the way. I'm like, okay, yo, let's pipe down something. Cooper Rush is cool, but Cooper Rush is good for his role. He's not built to be no starter. He's not built that way. He's good as a backup in a sense because Cooper Rush wasn't coming in there throwing the ball 30. He wasn't throwing the ball 45 times. He was just in there making plays here and there, managing the game, getting the run game good, easy passes. He wasn't throwing nothing crazy, screen pass, easy pass. Might throw a deep ball to Lamb or Brown. But what was keeping this team alive is the defense. The defense, I mean, obviously they have one of the best defenses in the league. When you talk about Diggs, you got guys like obviously Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, Anthony Barr, who was playing but is hurt now. But their defense is what's keeping them in the game, and it's championship defense. Now, they didn't do a good job last Sunday against the Packers. You know, they got away with the Packers. But obviously, what I'm saying all to say is Cooper Rush played his role well. And then obviously he went to Philly, got exposed. Cool. But Dak Prescott comes. Now, I don't know. Even when Dak Prescott came, I was like, okay, the Cowboys are going to be good. But teams was just going around talking, not teams. Everybody kept saying how the Dallas Cowboys were the best team in the NFC after they lost to Philadelphia. That didn't make no sense to me. I'm like, whoa, hold a minute. Philadelphia is a team that's undefeated. Nobody's better than them right now. You can't say that the Cowboys are better than the Eagles when they just lost to the Eagles. But people was talking about, they're saying that because they think Dak Prescott is this transcending player. Now, I have no problem with Dak. I think Dak is cool. But I will say this. That contract extension that he signed, 30 mil, yeah. Jerry Jones is rolling in his bed every night, crying his bald eyes out that he gave Dak Prescott that money because he hasn't lived up to it ever since he signed a dotted line on that. Dak Prescott has been there how long? He got there in 2016. Since 2016, he's only had one playoff win with 4 appearances, I believe, 3 or 4 appearances and 1 playoff win. Unacceptable. Then on top of that, the team you had last year was by far the best team that y'all ever had. From the offensive side and the defense. That 2016 team they had was crazy, yes. But there wasn't as talent on the defensive side. Offensively and defensively, it was there. And yet, you lay an egg in your home stadium against the 49ers. And you know the Cowboys fans, oh my goodness, the ref tried to tackle him on the last play. First of all, you idiot. Number one, y'all shouldn't have been down 17-0 to start the game in general. How are you down 17-0 to start the game in the playoffs in your stadium? But number one, part of that is on the coach not having his team ready. We all know Mike McCarthy is mid. We're not even going to get into that. But part of that is on the coach. But two, the quarterback that's throwing the ball is making 30-something million. At least put some points on the board. You got Amari Cooper. You got CeeDee Lamb. You got what's his name? I forgot his name. No, that's not his name. Whatever the tight end name is. And you got Zeke. You're making $30 million. We pay you this money to win these games. Of course, Dak Prescott, when he's down by double digits, wants to all of a sudden play like he's the Magic Man or something. And they make a late rally, but it doesn't work, and the Cowboys lose. Dak Prescott has not lived up to the hype and the hype of his contract that he was asking of. And remember, he was pressing mad hard for the contract. And people was like, yeah, man, you need to give Dak his money right now. But what we're kind of seeing now is what Jerry Jones was pressing back then. Now, in the situation with the Cowboys, the longer you wait, the more you pay. Again, we see the market for quarterbacks go up each and every year, higher, and higher. The longer you wait to pay these quarterbacks, the more you would have to end up paying. Before Dak got injured, the price was like 25. Dak got hurt, it was 30 or 35. That's just how it goes. Because that's the risk you take. So you pay him early so you don't have to risk that. But, Dak, has not lived up to his hype as far as his contract. And I believe that's why the Cowboys were not really going nowhere. I mean, even though they're an A team, I don't really give the Cowboys a shot in the playoffs because it's the Cowboys. In the beginning of the season, they will look good, they'll play good when there's no expectations. Now we have the expectations on them. They fold up and crumble up, and they're done for. In the beginning of the season, they will look good, they'll play good when there's no expectations. Now we have the expectations on them. They fold up and crumble up, and they're done for. Let's do San Fran. I'm gonna do this, and it's gonna shock people, but I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna have San Fran over Dallas, and the reason why I'm gonna have San Fran over Dallas is because the one thing about San Fran is they've never been able to stay healthy. Ever since they had their good Super Bowl year, they've had the same team, but they just haven't been able to stay healthy enough to go back and make a run. Right now, obviously, last year they got to the NFC Championship game, and we all thought that was the end of Jimmy Garoppolo. For some reason, I don't know if teams didn't want Jimmy, but they couldn't get a trade done, so they just decided to bench him, and restructure his quarterback for less money, his contract for less money, and start Trey Lance. I don't really see the purpose of that. If you're gonna trade a guy, trade him. But hey, I'm not in the front office. I don't know what's really going on. Maybe they couldn't get a deal done. But Trey Lance plays, and then he obviously gets hurt. Now Jimmy G is back in the lineup. Again, I'm not a fan of Jimmy G, but I don't understand the hate he gets. Now, obviously, Jimmy G, he can look really good and he can look really dumb. But I can respect a guy that has been, every time he's played a full season, he's been to the 2 out of the last 3 NFC Championship games, went to the Super Bowl, was up double digits, about to win the Super Bowl. Then, of course, Patrick Mahomes, aka Mahomes Goat, aka my homeboy, did his thing, but that's okay though. But Jimmy G has done nothing but have postseason success. He's the opposite of Dak Prescott. He has postseason success when it matters most. So I can respect a guy that can get wins in the postseason. But obviously, he's not the best quarterback as far as abilities. With the 49ers, it's just injuries. I mean, Nick Bosa was out for a couple weeks. Obviously, Trey Lance was hurt. They had a couple more injuries on the defensive side. Trent Williams was banged up. And it's just like they can't stay healthy. When they are healthy, they're one of the best teams in the NFC, one of the best teams in the league. The addition of Christian McCaffrey was magnificent. He fits everything that has to go on for San Fran. Now adding him just plays into the strengths what they already had, which is running the ball. The 49ers are a more dangerous team when they're running the ball with Debo, with Christian McCaffrey, rather than having Jimmy G drop back in the pocket and throw the ball 40, 35 times. Like, that's not their game. That's not a recipe for their success. 49ers are going to run the ball, and they're gonna play good defense, and they're gonna play off the play action, which leads to passes to Ayuk and George Kittle. In the NFC, when you talk about a team like the Cowboys, you talk about a team like Tampa Bay, you talk about a team like Los Angeles and Green Bay. Those teams can't stop the run. I think two of the top 5 teams in the NFL that can run, Philadelphia and San Fran, both in the NFC. They're both top 5 in rushing in the NFL. If you can run the ball, you will have success, and it will open the doors, especially if you have a quarterback like Jimmy G, who is a recipe. He doesn't need to be throwing the ball 35, 40 times. That's not how you win with him. You got to have a consistent run. I mean, even in the championship against Green Bay, like, he only threw the ball 10 times? They just ran the ball the whole game. Like, that's a recipe for success. There's no question about this. We're going to put Kansas City all the way at the top. I wonder if there's a spot at the top higher than this, then they'll go there too. I went through this whole offseason of people telling me that Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs were going to take a step back since the leaving of Tyreek Hill. Understandably so. Definitely understandably so. But I was just thinking to myself, like, do people really think that all of Patrick Mahomes' success was only because of Tyreek Hill? I mean, I can understand, okay, a quarterback loses his number one threat. Yeah, he's not going to have them, as far as numbers, he won't have that much success. But people were just making it seem like Kansas City was going all the way down. I mean, I didn't hear anybody say that they were going to win the division. Like I said before the season started on the Dave Say So podcast, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are the kind of team that until another team shows me that they can beat them, I cannot count them out, no matter who's on the squad. Even in the offseason when the Broncos obviously got Russell Wilson, the Chargers made moves on defense. Raiders obviously traded for DeMonte. It looks like the whole that AFC conference was looking like, okay, we about to catch up with Patrick Mahomes. Like, it ain't gonna be no easy route to winning the division. Like, you're gonna have to actually work for this. Ladies and gentlemen, it was the complete opposite. Mahomes right now, at this moment, right now, is the leading MVP candidate. And if you ask me right now who should win it, it should be Patrick Mahomes. Kansas City, despite Tyreek Hill being traded, is the number one offense. They score the most points. Kansas City hasn't missed a beat. They brought in, and it's not like they went out and it's not like the players and the receivers they went and got aren't even as good as Tyreek. But Patrick Mahomes is proving why he's already one of the greatest quarterbacks to play this game. He's proven why he's already can be considered a top 5 quarterback of all time. Like, that's not egregious to say that if you have Patrick Mahomes in your top 5 quarterbacks of all time, nobody would look at you crazy. Because his arm talent, his ability to create, he can create out of nothing. There's not a single pass he can't throw. Now, even I thought that the leaving of Tyreek Hill was going to put their offense down a little bit. But it's really, the offense, as far as success, hasn't moved. They're still number 1 in the league, and they're number 1 in points scored. A lot of people had doubt in Patrick Mahomes with Tyreek Hill leaving, because they were looking at it like, okay, with Tyreek Hill, he was so explosive, you could always go for the deep play. The big play was always there. Now that he's not there, you're going to have to prove to us that you can go up the field and make methodical drives the entire game. You're going to have to take the check down. You're going to have to take what the defense gives you instead of just using Tyreek Hill as a bailout. Patrick Mahomes has been doing that all season, and he's been successful. Speaking of S tiers, we're going to put Buffalo right here. We're going to put Buffalo right there. Josh Allen at the beginning of the season was playing unbelievable football. These last couple of games, I don't know what's been going on. I don't know what's been going on with them. Obviously he had the elbow injury, so maybe that could have been going into what's been going on. But hey, the game against Minnesota, like, you just can't wet the bed like that. You can't wet the bed like that. I mean, your defense got to stop 4th and goal at the 1. All you got to do, no timeouts left, by the way. All you got to do is hike the football and just gain a yard. And it's over. And somehow, some way, he fumbles the ball. Now, granted, he did drive him down the field and get a field goal. But he also threw the game-winning interception. He had 2 of them, too, to Patrick Peterson. So, I don't know if the league is catching up to Josh Allen. Again, I'm going to just say that it's the elbow. Because before the elbow, he was playing spectacular football. I've been a Josh Allen fan for the longest. I said he was top 3 in the league 2 years ago. Josh Allen is the real only threat to, in my eyes, to Patrick Mahomes as far as the success that Patrick Mahomes has, especially in the AFC. And I think that they will play in the postseason. And again, even though I'm a homeboy fan, I think this year is built to be the Josh Allen year. But that would not happen if Josh Allen continues to play like this. Now let's get to this. Let's get to this right here. Okay. Let me tell you something. I don't care what this team record has. I don't care if they was undefeated. They not getting no S tier out of me. And you know why they not getting no S tier out of me? I'm gonna show you why. Look at this buffoon right here. Look at this. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? For him? For this man? Listen, let me tell you something right now, okay? Let me tell you something about this man, Kirk Cousins, right here. There is not a quarterback in the league right now that's had as many meltdowns and as many losses in the most crucial moments than this man right here. The list of all the times he's failed and come short and choked under pressure is a list that's longer than a flamingo's neck. This man is the same Kirk Cousins who over the last couple years in Minnesota has started the season out as hot as they are right now, only to down the stretch them to lose games back to back, and Kirk Cousins plays horrible. Now all of a sudden he's Kirk with the chains? Mind you, this is after they got a win in Washington. They were down to Washington and they came back. You telling me You put on chains, designer glasses, flexing jewelry after a win versus the Commanders? The Commanders? Are we serious? We flexing VVS chains, watches, Rollies, Cartier lenses. The team was recording because you got to win against the Commanders? Are we serious? The Commanders. That has to be the lamest team name in history. I don't know how they got a name worse than a football team, but they're the Commanders that command nothing but command a whole lot of L's. And you're celebrating because you got to win on the road versus the Commanders after you was down? First of all, what are you doing being down to Washington anyways? What is going on? I'm like, you don't understand. When I first saw this video, I was ready to punch somebody. I was like, I know Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is not flexing Rollies, bust down watches, a VVS chain, Cuban leak because he got a dub versus the Washington. This is some stuff you do after you win a Super Bowl. Maybe you get a dub. Maybe you do some stuff like this after you win a Super Bowl. But you beat the Washington Commanders and you think you're good. You're not good at all. Bro, Kirk Cousins, his career, mind you, do I think Kirk Cousins, talent-wise, is a good quarterback? Yes, he has talent. But he's continuously come up short in so many instances. He's been in the league since 2012. Again, he's another Dak Prescott. He's been in the league for 10 plus years, only has one playoff win. One playoff win to show for it. I remember when Minnesota first got you. First of all, Minnesota went to the NFC Championship game with Case Keenum. They went to the NFC Championship game with Case Keenum. Oh shoot, I'm going too crazy. They went to the NFC Championship game with Case Keenum. Kirk Cousins get there. He's supposed to be the guy that takes him over the top. And he takes him. His whole tenure in Minnesota, he's missed the playoffs more than he's made the playoffs. Kirk Cousins is the definition of a letdown waiting to happen. Every year, he plays balls out like this, only to melt down. Now, we're coming up in the month of December. Again, December is the time to win. December is the money month. If you win in December, you get into the playoffs. I believe his record in December, his whole career, is 13-16, which is under 500. Trust me, the meltdown is coming. Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson. I got Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens as the best A team right now in the NFL. Obviously, we all know Lamar Jackson's been spectacular. His improved throwing ability is second to none. He's, again, we talk about quarterbacks getting paid, and we're going to talk about this. We don't have time to talk about this for another time, but the longer you wait to pay these quarterbacks, the more you have to end up paying. It's just like Fat Joe said, yesterday's price is not today's price. Lamar Jackson was asking for, or it was reported that the Ravens had offered him, I believe it was $250 million guaranteed, fully guaranteed, and Lamar turned it down. I'm gonna tell you why Lamar turned it down. If you look around, first of all, Lamar should have been paid. That's point back period. Lamar should have been gotten his money from Baltimore, but for some reason, Baltimore hasn't been giving it up, which Baltimore has always been a team that's just been stingy about their money, especially when it comes to paying quarterbacks. But Lamar's looking around the league like, hold on. I just seen Deshaun Watson sit on his butt for a whole offseason, going through crazy sexual harassment allegations, and he still got $230 million fully guaranteed, and he hadn't even played a snap. I'm an MVP, one of the best players in the league, period. And ever since I got here, besides last year due to injury, I brought you to the playoffs. And I've actually advanced. And you gonna tell me that all you can do is 250? By the end of the season, Lamar's price points will be 300 million. It has to be 300 million. If I'm Lamar, I'm coming in there like I'm Chief Keef in 2012. I need 300. I'm 300. I need it all. On top of that, Lamar has improved his game tremendously this year. His passing ability has gone up, and obviously we know he can run the ball. Offensively, they looked good. And my whole thing about Lamar is a lot of teams and a lot of people have said, well, the reason why you don't get paid that well is because you're a quarterback that likes to run the ball. Typically, quarterbacks that run the ball a lot get hurt, and it doesn't lead to team success. My whole thing is, number one, people act like Lamar can't pass the ball. He doesn't have any passing ability. Like people just like make it seem like he's a Baker Mayfield or a Tim Tebow when it comes to passing the ball. Like Lamar actually has a very underrated arm, and accuracy is underrated. The problem is, look who he's throwing the ball to. I mean, outside of Mark Andrews, the best receiver he's had is what? Hollywood Brown? Hollywood Brown, the guy who just went for a 3rd round pick to the Cardinals, that was his best target. Then he bringing guys like Bateman. Bateman was actually pretty decent, but now he's hurt. He's out. Now he's playing with a washed up Deshaun Jackson. A dude named Likely, a tight end, Duvernay, who's really a special teams player, and they got another guy. I forgot. I think he came from somewhere else, but I forgot his name. But the point is, Lamar is playing with a bunch of nobodies besides Mark Jackson. Now you have Mark Andrews and J.K. Dobbins. Kenyon Drake, who's actually been a real shocker. He's playing really well. But offensively, they don't really have enough. But Lamar has been playing so well that he's kind of elevated them. The game against Tampa Bay, they were down early. He brought them back in the game. He was making the passes, making the completions. The game against New Orleans was impressive to me. Even though New Orleans is not that good this year, they still are good defensively. But he won that game without Mark Andrews. That means he was getting other guys involved and helping them out. Defensively, they've been a letdown this year. I mean, they've given up the most 10-point leads in the league this year. Like, I don't understand what's going on with their defense. They have the players, they have the talent, but for some reason, the defense has not been able to get stops down the stretch of games. I like the addition of Roquan Smith. That was a good addition. But again, it seems to me that Baltimore has been willing to go out and make trades and get players on the defensive side, but when it comes to Lamar, when it comes to helping out Lamar Jackson offensively, it's like they have nothing for him. They go out and get Roquan Smith, who's an all-pro linebacker, and the best they can do for Lamar Jackson is a washed-up Deshaun Jackson, who was basically on the verge of retirement. Like, are we serious? That's the best you can do for Lamar. But on the defensive side, we can go out and get Roquan Smith. Like, I just don't really see that as a fair thing. But I think Baltimore has a serious chance of getting to the Super Bowl. I do think that they'll win out their division. This is the tier list. I think this is pretty perfect. I mean, I think this is pretty good right here. Honestly, wait, actually, let me switch these right here. Yeah, y'all can let me know what y'all think in the comments or in the chat.